Okay, so here we go. We're into the final game of 5 from Dogs of War 2018, and this time the Nikephorian Byzantines are fighting an Arab Conquest army. Now, this is a pretty chunky army. It's a not one I'd really expected or seen before in Art de la Guerre, but I think it falls very much in the category of huge armies with a lot of punchy but fairly average troops. There's not a lot of quality in, well, certainly in the way this one's been put together, but a lot of different components, which kind of makes it interesting. Now, the thing you can see straight away, there's an awful lot of terrain on this table, and it's all kind of fallen in my part of the board. So the idea of the outflanking, the sweeping maneuvers, that's just tough. That's really tricky to do here because there's just not the space to do it. There's only really this flank here, whereas this is all cut off by plantations and fields, making it very difficult for my troops to get out. There's even a big field here, which fairly obviously is going to be home to enemy medium swordsmen who can come rushing through it with impunity against my cavalry. Big block of close formation heavy swordsmen here, and a couple of camels sort of floating around the end. What did I choose to do here? Well, try to set up, plantation covered hill there, a field there. And actually, let's have a quick look at the list. A couple of medium camels with bow is just a small floater command somewhere with one medium swordsman who hangs at the back and doesn't really do anything. Your big block of impetuous swordsmen, javelinmen to mug elephants, which I don't have, and then the slightly bigger lump of impetuous swordsmen. I think I may have actually missed a couple out there. Then there's maybe a few more than that. This is the multi-faceted command with cavalry, with swordsmen, with javelinmen, slingers, all sorts of different bits and pieces in there. So what really was the plan here? It's think I am going to have to take these people on. This is probably the place to do it. I don't necessarily want to fight these guys. And what do? Well, the cavalry start coming up here, pushing fairly obviously to protect the open flank. The medium foot race into the terrain. I've got a thin skin of skirmishers out to try and delay them a bit. The heavy infantry and the camels are just pushing down here. It's a pretty straightforward advance by an army that's bigger and wider than mine. Straight into the terrain, impact cavalry there. This is the interesting bit. If these troops are going to charge me, they're going to give away some of their advantages. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 impact cavalry there. I've got the cataphracts that are pretty good. I've got the spearmen and the Varangians, so there's a 7 wide block that's kind of all right there. This is the better bit. That's not quite so clever, but can be good if it wins. 7 wide. These really don't want to fight. They're the Scutatoi again. They don't want to be hit by impact foot. These are very much hanging back, and there's not a lot of cavalry to mug over here. So what do? Concentrate on that idea that I missed in the previous game. Get the Scutatoi over there ready to mug the cavalry, and with not much really to oppose this extra 4 wide block of impact foot, who I really don't want to be going into my Scutatoi. I took the decision to say, well, if we're going to fight here, that is just giving time for the enemy to choose whether they go in or not. Maybe they'll just sit back. So why not try and force the issue and fight up here before these guys have a chance to sweep through the terrain and do their worst? Because my 2 cavalry over here, what are they really going to achieve? This is all about getting this battle committed before these guys can get through and run into here. So driving those out to the flank is part of that refusing this whole area. So I've got that battle line that was down here is now going to be a battle line up here. The 2 Scutatoi, what can they do? They're really now saying, well, their job is to protect the flanks of this battle line while hopefully these slightly better quality troops do the business before this really has a chance to sweep around and take me out. So slightly wider view of the table here. These are the not such good cavalry. Because I've got all my other cavalry here, there's only 2 on this flank, but 2 against 2. I shoot, I'm elite, I'm armoured, that's pretty good. Can I get these involved as well? There's a hit marker there. I've already shot someone, so knock a hole in this one more casualty and it's gone. Suddenly you've only got 2 cavalry here, and I can bring these guys up and potentially start to slow this formation down by going into the flank of it. That's the theory anyway. So what do? Got to get the shooting on that. That's almost the gap. could even allow this light horse to race through and start doing things, or be an overlap to these guys, help this finish off quite quickly. So the Scutato push forward. I come up to maximise shooting. So I've got 1, 2, 3 shooting. I can even use Scutato to lead it. This medium cavalryman, he's been left behind. He's not going to get there to do anything. He may as well plan to be part of the either the refuse or make it slightly more difficult for these medium foot here. And this lot just push forward as quickly as possible. Really, I'm trying to establish this battle line here and draw the guys in before the camels can even sneak round. And camels are good against cavalry, but I'm impact, I'm armoured, I'm elite. So there's something going on there. But this shooting against these cavalry here in this particular game didn't really cut the mustard. There wasn't a lot happening with it, so I'm not damaging those impact cavalry particularly well. The Scutatoi are trying to join in because their shooting is, as we talked about in one of the previous games, really, really powerful. But at the moment, that's not really achieved too much. So how do the Arabs react? Well, they're fully in. They charge, and this is where the interesting kind of penny packet piece of the Arab army looks. So if we go back, this is the cavalryman here. He's moved up behind the line. There's some bowmen, there's some bits and pieces, the camels here. As soon as they get within charge range, they can start sliding across and doing clever things. So some of the spearmen go to one side, this one gets left behind, and they suddenly bring in a cavalryman to charge into the cataphract. The cataphract would love to fight these swordsmen, particularly now they've got some sort of injury from being shot at. But an impact lancer is not quite so clever, especially not with an overlap here. These guys have just boldly gone straight into my cavalry. They're using overlaps, and they're using the touching a camel piece, which gives this guy a -1, and also this guy, even though it's at a corner. So suddenly 3 of my cavalry who are decent, they're 50-50 against these guys. If these guys charge in, suddenly those 2 are now down a factor. So that's not clever at all. And because they've come in faster than I expected, there's some messy stuff going on here. The medium foot are sliding out, and these guys have just gone in. And the rough terrain, this is a mistake I made. Plantations look really fearsome. They look really visually as if cavalry are going to find it difficult to hit, but it just counts as rough terrain. So just like in Gladiator, cavalry can run between the rows of widely spaced trees, or in this case, some other sort of fruit and veg thing that grows in straight lines, and come racing through and use that extra distance to get into that position quite quickly. And here the lancers were just being shot, so why don't they fight? They go in, they fight, somebody else comes in to act as support. So good that they're committed. That's what I want. It would have been good if I could get the support or get rid of that light horse, which it looks like I've managed to do, which means they've had to plug it with some medium foot. So what happens next? These guys take a bit of a beating. They don't really want to be carrying on getting chewed up with overlaps, so they break off. So suddenly this whole flank is already, they've lost, they've taken a hit, this guy's taken a hit. I don't think there is a dead one there, actually. That's probably a mistake, but that hit is on the cataphract, which should have been one of my stronger troops. So all of a sudden, with hits racking up here, I'm changing my plan entirely. This is not a combat I'm winning in the first round or looking like it's going to go well, particularly with these camels and the overlap. He's going to stay there because otherwise he's dead anyway. He's taken hits. I don't want the camels running around. These 2 break off because they can against heavy foot, and I'm already starting to think, well, is this suddenly become a defensive line? And we're hoping for great things here, which 1 hit, that's not exactly great things yet. And those medium foot have come forwards again. Dropping back, it's a break-off move if you're against foot with mounted, possibly even slower moving mounted. You can drop back your normal move distance -1. It's a way to get out of combat, possibly have a chance to recover and charge in again in future. And this isn't really doing anything. My high quality cavalry are failing to chew up much lesser quality cavalry over there in short order, pretty much as in the second game as well. So what happens? The Arabs are just coming forwards. They've got huge weight of numbers. This is a 25, 28 strong army. The more people they get committed against my 20, 19, 20, the better. Charging forwards into the Varangians, into the spearmen, just pushing forwards here. This guy's been crushed as he was bound to be. He's overlapped, he's camel minuses, he's disordered. That wasn't lasting very long. So all of a sudden, this group is now in a position to maybe come into my flank here, forces these Scutatoi up. The fact they've shot one off that, and there's potentially an overlap there. Medium foot coming out of the rough terrain to take on cavalry. That's not a great matchup for the Arabs there either. They're getting a little bit more confident with a -1 there, and it looks like an overlap there. Allows them to do a bit more shooting and see if they can get anything here. And these guys sort of look safe now, although they're now have been involved in a bit of a shooting match, going backwards and forwards there. And look at that, my light foot, who's allowed to stand in rough terrain, is still hanging on through good dice, which is keeping these guys away and allowing me to kind of set up to receive them there. So piling forward as the Arabs come in. These guys are starting to win. There's a couple of markers there. That's a 2-hit. That's a 1. But even if that evaporated now, all of this stuff is going to be in and in combat long before these two guys can do much. So what happens? Having killed that infantryman, everybody else steps forward. The two overlaps come with it. They come out of the terrain and into the cavalry. There's a hole there that allows these guys to slide across into the bowmen, but we're still cheering up one there. The Arabs are coming forward. You can see there's more hit markers everywhere. Here's some more troops that have been coming around off camera, come over the hill and come down. These are the medium foot and the javelin men to start to overwhelm this. You have a look at it. The Scutatoi shooting have done very, very little to damage these. They've been pinging away at here and here. They've only inflicted 1 marker. More of those people arriving on the flank. It's not good. This hasn't won. This isn't chewing through the middle of these guys here at all. It's still fighting some fairly, low rent, cheap rate Arab troops over there. So what's next? It's just, again, continuing with the Arabs. Big charge into this exposed spearman who's just sort of plugging the gap. That's now looking like a flank. They're starting to win. The cavalry, that spare cavalry that was floating around, cavalry as well here. Suddenly it starts to be extra movement to drop in and give extra overlaps against these people here. Pretty much everything is toasted. There's this guy's gone. He's been hitting the flank. He's already got 2 hits. He's going down as well. Suddenly my army's been kind of wiped out and a big dent put in it there. Looking very, very bad, very, very grim from this stage onwards. They've got all the way through the field. They've gone into the squishy stuff. This stuff is just about won now, but it's way, way, way too late. The Arabs are very much on their way to a victory just by rapid attack and overwhelming numbers against probably too optimistic, too static a Byzantine setup. And again, taking on this many heavy impact foot is just not something that this army is set up to do. This, certainly on this sort of terrain. So ending the competition with 3 wins, 2 losses, just outside the places, and some interesting different lists with different tactics, and hopefully these top-down views have given you a slightly different perspective. See what I did there on how the game is played.